Health rocks, inspired to be substance-free.
Hello, and welcome to the University of Maryland Extension's 4-H Health Rocks training video for lessons 17 and 18. My name is Michelle Harmon, University of Maryland Extension 4-H Program Assistant in Garrett County. This week's training module includes mentor training, focusing on experiential learning and the life skills model. Experiential learning includes hands-on learning and has been long recognized as an effective way to help everyone learn. Health Rocks is designed to use experiential learning to actively engage learners while it encourages them to think for themselves, work hard, and ultimately learn more. The experiential learning model. Let's talk about what happens after we complete an activity from the curriculum. For the purpose of this exercise, we will use the Take a Deep Breath activity from the Beginner Health Rocks resources. These are the instructions for the activity. You would give each participant 3 straws, an extra wide straw, a regular size straw, and a straw type coffee stirrer, along with the Take a Deep Breath worksheet and a pencil. We are going to imagine that you are completing this activity along with me. While seated, pinch your nose closed so that no air can escape, either while inhaling or exhaling. Put the extra wide straw in your mouth and try to breathe through it for 1 minute. Record on the worksheet how long you were able to breathe through the straw. Now replace the extra wide straw with a regular sized straw. Again, keep your nostrils pinched and try to breathe through the regular sized straw for 1 minute. Record how long you were able to breathe through the regular size straw. Now, replace the regular size straw with a straw type coffee stirrer. Again, keep your nostrils pinched and try to breathe through the straw type coffee stirrer for 1 minute. Record how long you were able to breathe through the straw type coffee stirrer. Now, please stand up. I want you to do jumping jacks for 30 seconds. When you are finished, I want you to complete the entire experiment again with each of the straws, remembering to pinch your nose closed so that no air can escape, either when inhaling or exhaling. Record on the worksheet how long you could breathe with each straw for 1 minute. Now, after you've completed the activity, what would happen if you just stopped? What would you learn from this activity? Sometimes, if we don't think a little more about what we've been doing, the learning stops. Part of what helps people retain what they've learned and apply it to other situations happens when we talk about what's just taken place. You might want to think about it as the what, so what, and now what. In 4-H, it is a 4-step process of learning called the experiential learning model. Just think, what would happen if I stopped the training right now? The steps in the experiential education model are such: experience, share, process, generalize, and apply. Let's look at each one of these steps individually. Experience. It's important for you as the trainers to have the participants think about what they might see or what might happen. Let the participants experience the activity by doing it. Share. Ask questions about the activity itself, as well as the experience after they have completed the activity. Participants should describe the results and their reactions. What questions could you ask after the experiment you just finished? Sample questions. What was your experience in this activity? What did we just show through the scientific experiment? How much more difficult is it to breathe when doing a simple activity like jumping jacks? What was it like to breathe through the different straws? Which straw made it easier to breathe? Why? What differences did you see when you were sitting down versus when you had finished the jumping jacks? The next step is to process. Ask questions about something that was important about the experience. Participants can analyze the experience and reflect upon the results. Sample questions may include: what do you think is significant about the different sizes of the straws? What do you think this says about how we breathe if part of our lungs is ruined? generalize, and apply. Now apply the results to real-world examples. Ask questions that help participants connect the subject matter to life skills and the bigger world. Participants can then apply what they have learned to their lives. The experiment gives them an opportunity to practice these new skills or use this new information. Sample questions may be, what general statements can you make about smoking and lung capacity based on this scientific experiment? How might you use scientific data to convince your peers not to smoke? Based on what you learned, how might you design another scientific experiment about health related to smoking, chewing tobacco, drinking alcohol, etc.? An example might be the advertisement of fish with no water. To summarize, we have just used the experiential learning model: experience, share, process, generalize, and apply to learn about the impact of smoking on breathing. Remember, you want participants to experience the activity and learn from doing, not just be told what will happen. This is what defines experiential learning. One of the overall goals of Health Rocks is to teach people life skills. Let's discuss life skills a bit further. Life skills are the abilities that assist us in leading productive and satisfying lives and help us function well in the environments in which we live. In the Health Rocks beginning level and the Health Rocks intermediate level curriculums are the life skills we hope to have participants gain through this curriculum. Look at the list and think about which life skills relate to the experiment we just completed. What life skills do you think were being taught? The Take a Deep Breath activity would tell you that we were trying to teach healthy life choices, concern for others, and using scientific methods. In addition to teaching life skills, Health Rocks is designed to meet the National Health Education Standards, as found in your Health Rocks beginning level curriculum and in your Health Rocks intermediate level curriculum. These standards were developed by the Joint Committee on National Health Education Standards, sponsored by the American Cancer Society. They provide program goals for all grade levels. Each activity in this curriculum identifies the health education standard being addressed. We are now ready to begin looking at the lessons for this training video. We will be focusing on lessons 17 and 18. Lesson 17. Youth experience many different influences as they develop. Some influences are constant, while some might have a significant impact only during certain periods of life. Some sources of influence are those with whom youth have direct contact. For example, a parent, or indirect contact, their parent's boss. These different factors interact with youth development in the biological, psychological, social, and cognitive areas. Therefore, it is important to look at the developing teen as someone who is growing within a specific framework of intertwined influences and environments. All of the changes they undergo are shaped by the different levels of environment within which they operate. Helping youth sort out how these influences work and what they mean helps youth as they face increased pressures to participate in risky behavior. The energizer for this week is collaborative drawing. Ask your group to break into groups of 2 or 3 people. Distribute a sheet of paper and pens to each partnership or small group. Then, setting up each group with a hard surface, at a table or having a clipboard, announce that you would like everyone to create a work of art together. Instruct one person in each group to start by simply drawing a line, any line, an object or shape onto the sheet of paper. It should take no more than a few seconds to complete, and it does not need to mean anything nor look like anything yet. Then instruct their partner to draw their own line, object, or shape to the paper, either complementing what is already there or adding thereto. It doesn't matter. Again, they should complete this task quickly. After each person has drawn their own content, start over. The first person continues to add more to the artwork, and then their partners continue this process back and forth over and over. Impress on your group that in the early moments of their artwork, it need not look or mean anything. Just commit to producing as improvisationally as possible. You may want to encourage people to let go of trying to control the outcome. Invite them to let go and go with the flow and see what happens. Often magic does. Ultimately, your challenge to each partnership through their collaborative drawing efforts is to produce a piece of art they are both happy with. Time this experience if you choose, or allow the creative juices of each partnership to simply stop when they are satisfied. When ready, invite one or more pairs to share their courageous work. Social influences are numerous during the adolescent years. These influences can be direct or indirect, positive or negative, and can promote or discourage substance use and risky behaviors. A wide variety of factors and influences are associated with tobacco, alcohol, and other drug use. This lesson will focus on indirect influences and provide an opportunity to examine how influences can affect us positively or negatively. We will now show the video for lesson 17.
Health rocks. Inspired to be substance free.
What influences you? There are so many influences and outside pressures that are surrounding us every day. So let's think about these influences. There are direct influences and there are indirect influences. Direct influences would be those influences that directly impact you. They're the people or the things that have a say over how you feel or what you do. So for you, direct influences would be your parents, maybe your friends, those who are around you in your home, in your school, in your church, your neighborhoods, maybe even on your sports teams, your coaches, your other players that you're on the team with. Those would be direct influences. Those people have a direct influence on what you're thinking, what you're saying, what you're feeling. They can put pressure on you to act a certain way, to say a certain thing, to do a certain thing. Indirect influences are those that maybe you don't interact with every day. Say people that your parents work with or people on the school board. These people may have an influence over what you're doing or how you're feeling. If your parents have a stressful day at work or something goes wrong, their boss is angry and they might bring that home, that's going to influence you a little bit. Or the school board is making a decision about when sports will start or if you're going to have a snow day. These things influence you, but they are indirectly influencing you. It's not something that is having a direct sway over what you're thinking or what you're feeling. So these broader layers of influence can also be not necessarily people, but your cultural beliefs, societal structures, your values. So these are larger things on an outer circle around you of influence that can still influence the way you think, the way you feel, and what you do. Things that might be in that broader circle of influence, these broader influential things, would be things like social media, things that you see on TikTok. These influence you in a way. This is why these people are called influencers, because they do cause you to think about things maybe in a different way. But that's not a direct influence. Your direct influence is what is right close to you in that small inner circle that's directly right around you, your parents, your friends, those people that you look up to that can really change what you're thinking or what you're seeing or what you're feeling. So we are all surrounded by these multiple layers of influence. And the better that we understand these layers of influence and how they affect us, the better we're going to be when it comes to making decisions and modifying our behaviors. So let's think about this a little bit. You have a tiny little circle around you, and this is your direct influence. Your parents, your friends, maybe people at your church, maybe people on a sports team that you play with, your baseball team or football team, something like that. What those people are doing or what those people are pressuring you to do, that's your direct influence. Your parents want you to go to college. They are directly influencing you. They're pushing you in that direction. They're guiding you in that direction. They're urging you to do well in school. They want to make sure that you're taking the right subjects. They want to make sure that you're a well-rounded person because they want to make sure that you can get into that good college. So they are directly influencing you and trying to influence that decision for you to make to go into college. Your friends want to go to a party on Friday night. They're putting pressure on you. They want you to go. There's going to be drinking at this party, but your friends really want you to go. So that's a direct influence. They are pushing you to make that decision. They want you to go to that party. They want you to take part in what everybody else is doing. So these are direct influences. Looking a little bit wider out, as I said before, maybe your parents' boss or their workplace, maybe people that are on your school board or people in your city government, in your town government. They're making decisions that may influence you, but it's not as much as those direct influence. These people in that outer circle don't have as much sway over you. They're not going to directly impact you as much as those people in that small inner circle, the ones that are closest to you. If you knew somebody from the next town over that was having a party or was doing something risky behavior, that wouldn't influence you so much as if it were your neighbor or your classmate doing the same type of thing. So that's how those circles of influence change a little bit as they get wider out. Think of it as maybe like ripples in a pond. Those ones closer to the center have a larger effect than the ripples as they get farther out. They kind of get weaker as they get farther out, and that's a little bit the way your social influence or your circles of influence work. The closer they are, the stronger they are to impact you and impact your decisions and behaviors. The farther out those circles get, the less impact they're going to have on your day-to-day decisions and on what you are doing day-to-day. So that's our lesson on circles of influences, and I hope that you will think about that and think about those who you surround yourself with that have that most direct influence on you, and make sure to surround yourself with people that would be influencing you in a positive manner.
Ask for 5 volunteers to come to the center of the room to complete a challenge. Have the 5 volunteers stand in a line and hold hands. Their task is to move the hula hoop from one end of the line to the other while continuing to hold hands. Start the hula hoop on the arm of the individual on one end of the line. Tell the rest of the youth to cheer as loud as they can. Time the activity to see how long it takes. Try the activity again, with the onlookers booing as loud as they can. Time the activity to see how long it takes. Ask the youth, how did it make you feel if you are being cheered on positively to complete something? How does it feel if you're being booed or negatively influenced? Was it easier to complete the hula hoop challenge when you were being positively or negatively influenced? Ask youth to share people or organizations in their lives who have had an influence on them, whether positive or negative. Encourage the youth to expand on the list to include people and organizations that may have influenced them directly or indirectly. Examples may be 4-H leaders, the town or city mayor or US president, their parents' friends, people in their parents' workplaces, neighbors, clergy members, or their parents' friends. Write the list on a dry erase board or flip chart. Tell youth that this list is going to be saved for later, but right now they are going to develop circles of influence. Pass out the circles of influence name tag to each participant. Have them wear it. Explain that there will be 3 circles of influence. The participant with the name tag youth will be in the middle of the circle. Tell the others to look at their name tags and think about how much influence they might have on the youth. Have participants listen carefully as you describe the circles of influence. The first circle is what or who has direct influence. This might mean they have actual control or power or are able to personally sway the youth. The second circle is what or who has indirect or roundabout influence, or a broader influence. This circle is control or power that is not straightforward. The youth is not part of the influence, but what happens here may affect them. The third circle is comprised of those things and people that are even broader than the second circle. An example may be how global issues have affected the youth because a favorite cousin has joined the military and has been deployed to another country. You may refer to the circles of influence map for suggestions on how this activity will look. Have the participant with the name youth stand in what will be the middle of the circle. Have the participants who believe they have a direct influence on the youth stand in a circle around the youth. Ask them to read their circles of influence name tags out loud. Why do they think they have direct influence? Would they have a direct influence on the youth when it comes to encouraging them to use or not use tobacco, alcohol, or other drugs? How? Participants who believe they have an indirect influence on the youth will then make a second circle outside the first circle. Ask them to read their circles of influence name tags out loud. Why do they think they have an indirect influence? Would they have an indirect influence on the youth when it came to encouraging them to use or not use tobacco, alcohol, and other drugs? How? Repeat the process for those who believe they represent things and people who have a very broad influence on the youth. What do their circles of influence name tags say? Why do they think they are on the outside circle? Would they have any influence on the youth when it came to encouraging them to use or not use tobacco, alcohol, and other drugs? How? If there are more name tags than there are youth, the tags for global issues, culture, customs, laws, and town, city can be placed on the floor where they fit. They will need to be discussed. After everyone has shared their name tags and how they influence or affect the youth, explain that not only do these people and things influence them at this level, they might have conflicting or different ideas. Some people or organizations might move from one level of influence to another, causing different levels of influence. Ask youth to think of examples of how parents and best friends might differ or not agree on something. Explain that the youth stays in the middle, but the circles of influence name tags move around the youth. Have participants with the circles of influence name tags slowly circle the youth while someone reads the circle of influence scenario. As the scenario is read, participants are to keep moving, but some may go in an opposite direction or may move from one level to another and back as they have more or less influence on the youth. Continue having students flow around the youth as each scenario is read. The circles of influence scenarios are as follows. You are 13 years old and attend middle or junior high school. You are an average student and really like school and your teachers. Your day starts with your mom calling you to get up and get ready for school. In the other room, your siblings are arguing and it is making you upset. It is also making your dad very upset. Your mom has fixed your favorite breakfast and you really appreciate that. One of your best friends stops by to pick you up so you can walk to school together. As you pass by your neighbor's house, the elderly man calls out, "Good morning." Your neighbor is really friendly and safe. You like it here because in your old neighborhood, everybody was always yelling at you. When you get to school, you see a group of your classmates, your peers, standing on the corner vaping. They make fun of you and your friend and call you names. It seems like you and your best friend are the only two in your whole class who don't vape. At school, you remember that your teacher has a meeting with your parents about your taking a special class. You really don't know what it's about and can't wait to find out. At the end of the day, you walk home with your friend. Your best friend's parents have said you can come to their house after school, but they smoke, and you are not sure your parents will let you. When you get home, you turn on the news. The local news says that the city council passed a new city law about not vaping in public. You like to hear that as you hate the smell of any type of e-cigarette. The national news is talking about the rising prices for gasoline and heating oil for homes. You heard mom and dad talk about how they are going to have to cut their budget in several areas if that happens. That may mean you have to wear warmer clothes this winter and you won't get to take that trip your family has talked about. Your parents get home from work, and mom said that today her boss told her they may have to cut her hours at work. She said that may make the budget really tight. You wonder if you'll get that new cell phone you have been wanting for your birthday. After you get home from your youth group, your grandparents call to remind everyone that the traditional get together for the holidays is coming. They want to make sure everyone is there. You really like going to their house because there is so much to do and a lot of cousins to talk to. Your oldest cousin has joined the service and will be going to a foreign country soon. That really scares you. The reflection for lesson 17. These are questions that can be used to lead a discussion. The list created in the beginning of the lesson may be utilized here. Who or what has a direct influence on you? How does it affect you? Who or what has an indirect influence on you? How does it affect you? Who or what has an even broader influence on you? How does that affect you? Do all of the things and people shared in the activity have an influence on you personally? Why or why not? Why is it important to be aware of the influences that were shared? Why do those items influence the things you do? What can you do about these influences now that you know they exist? Are each of us influenced by the same things? Why or why not? Why is it important to know how others influence you? Did you realize you are influenced by all of these areas? How does it change your feelings about local, state, and national issues? How can you use what you learned when it comes to tobacco, alcohol, and other drugs? The summary for lesson 17. We are all influenced by the people around us. It is up to each of you to determine the level of influence these outside forces will have on you. It is important to remember the difference between direct and indirect influence. Knowing how much influence certain people can have on your lives will help you to be more aware of those influences and their positive or negative effects on you. The 4-H activity for lesson 17 is electrical etching. We will watch a video so you will be able to see exactly how this lesson is to be conducted.
Today's experiment, we will be doing electrical etching. You will need a piece of stainless steel, a 9-volt battery, 2 alligator clips, cotton swabs, salt. Canning or pickling salt works well, or kosher salt, distilled water, electrical tape, and a pair of scissors. To start with, you want to pour some distilled water into a cup, 1 cup of distilled water, and add 2 teaspoons of salt and stir to allow that to dissolve. So I already have my salt dissolving in my water here. Put that off to the side. Next thing you want to do is take your piece of stainless steel and your electrical tape, and you want to put a pattern on your steel. This is what the scissors are for, to be able to cut your electrical tape. Any pattern will work. So I'll just do a quick pattern on here so you can get an idea of what we're doing. So I'm cutting my electrical tape just into strips because that's the pattern that I'm going to use. And put that on here. You can make initials, you can make any kind of a pattern on here. It's completely up to you. If you're really good at cutting tape, you might want to do a heart or something like that. I'm not that good at cutting tape, so I'm not going to do anything quite so fancy. few more pieces on here. When you put the electrical tape on, you want to make sure that you push it down well to seal it. This is what's going to keep your salt water from etching other pieces that you are not ready to have etched. So what's going to happen is on the stainless steel, the salt water and the electricity is going to break down the coating, and it is going to cause a reaction. So I think I'll just go with that pattern. So I've just done a little starburst pattern here. The next step that we want to do is you want to take your battery and you want to take one of your alligator clips and attach it to the positive side of your battery. Okay. You're going to take the other end of that clip and you're going to attach it to your stainless steel. Your other alligator clip is going to be attached to the negative side of your battery and to one of your cotton swabs, and you want to attach it just below the cotton tip here. And we're ready to start. So I'm going to give my water here another little stir, make sure we're good and dissolved and mixed up. I'm going to dip my cotton swab into my salt water, and then I'm going to hold it down. Set that over like that. I'm going to hold it down on my stainless. Try to get this. It's a little easier for you to see. You'll start to see the water is changing color, and don't expect this to happen instantly. It does take a little while. So just hold it on there. Move it around a little bit. It makes a little puddle of water. What's happening right now is a tiny electric current is running through the alligator clips and charging this salt water that we have on the stainless. And it is causing a reaction between the salt water and the stainless. You can see it's changing the color of my cotton swab. I'm just going to hold it on there. You want to continue doing this for each section that you want to have etched or to change color. Like I said, it does take a little bit. So once you feel that you've got that section etched sufficiently and you think that it looks the way you want it to look, you can go ahead and switch ends for your cotton swab. I'm going to dunk it in my salt water here again. And I'm going to go to another section. I'm going to spread my salt water around and hold my cotton swab there, allowing that tiny little electric impulse to get going. Work on my salt water. Now, I think that because the electric charge is still working through here, it may be etching this one still a little bit, but I'm not sure. You can see it's a little bit of a different color there. A slight tinge of green. So we're going to go ahead and let this one go a minute, and then I'm going to show you what this looks like. I'm not going to do the whole thing because that will take entirely too long for this instructional video, but I just wanted to give you a chance to see what it does. So while I'm holding that one on there, I will show you. This is one that I've done already, so you can see the difference where I did the etching. Just doing the same thing I am right now. Just holding this on here. Like I said, it takes a little while. I would say a couple minutes at least per each section that you want to see a reaction to. Now I'm going to go ahead and switch out my cotton swabs here. Stir my water up again. Dip that in there. The nice thing about this is because we are just using a 9-volt battery, there's no threat of any kind of electrocution or shock. I mean, I can touch the metal just fine. It's not electrified, it's not gonna shock me. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna wipe this one off and see if we can see that it's made any difference. So I'm gonna go ahead and unhook it. And I'm just gonna dab this off here a little bit. I don't know if I held this on there long enough to really give you a good idea. We'll go ahead and take some of this tape off here. Okay, so we are able to see there a little bit. We can see a difference. So this is the experiment that we're going to do.
As you will see, the stainless steel becomes cloudy and pitted wherever it's touched by the cotton swab, but remains unchanged under the electrical tape. Congratulations, you've just matched metal via electrical induced corrosion. Stainless steel gets its name from the fact that it doesn't corrode, but that's not strictly true. Like ordinary steel, stainless steel contains iron, which notoriously oxidizes when exposed to air, forming rust. Stainless steel, however, contains additional elements, notably chromium. Like iron, chromium does oxidize, but when it does, it forms chromium oxide, a sticky, protective, clear coating on the steel that prevents further oxidation. Not many substances can break this protective seal of chromium oxide, but a chlorine ion can. The exact mechanism of action is complicated, but the short story is that the chlorine ion disrupts the oxide, allowing iron chlorides to be formed. Both are soluble in water and dissolve, leaving a pit behind. The iron then reacts with hydroxide ions in the water, forming insoluble iron hydroxides and liberating the chloride ions to attack more iron. This kind of etching will happen fairly slowly in salt water without the addition of electricity, but electricity speeds it up mightily for 3 reasons. First, the chloride and hydroxide ions are negative and are attracted to the positively charged stainless steel. Second, electricity passing through water breaks the water molecules apart, creating extra hydroxide ions that can react with the iron and free the chlorides. Third, while iron is largely insoluble in water, the positive side of the battery removes electrons from the iron, converting it into iron ions, which are soluble. Swapping the battery terminals inhibits all 3 of these effects. If you try this alternate arrangement, you will see little, if any, etching. Electrical tape prevents contact with the chlorine and insulates against electricity, leaving the masked areas with less corrosion. To understand how important the chloride ions are, you can try other salts, such as potassium chloride, found in many table salt substitutes, or magnesium sulfate, Epsom salts. If you're more artistically inclined, some paint pens can cover the surface well enough to work as a mask. These allow for more detailed patterns and can usually be rubbed off with brass brushes without scratching the steel. Moving on to lesson 18. As youth begin more autonomy or independence, they begin to make more decisions on their own. They also rely more on their own beliefs rather than those of their parents. It is at this time that youth begin to think about what they believe. They are better able to objectively and impartially look at their own attitudes and beliefs about spirituality, politics, and morals. As youth develop their own beliefs and values, conflicts can result when what they want to do or what others encourage them to do disagree with what they personally believe. Nonetheless, this is a time when youth begin to explore their own values and develop their own attitudes and beliefs about life. For these reasons, it is important to give youth a chance to examine their beliefs and how these can affect their lives. The energizer for lesson 18 is stationary foot tag. Ask everyone to find a partner who is wearing completely different shoes to their own. This is really a mini icebreaker built into the task of forming pairs. Appreciate and encourage the acknowledgement and fashion reviews to help people find their partners and get on with it. Really, any creative partnering technique will work. Although, when was the last time you really found yourself standing next to someone with completely different shoes as yours? Each person faces his or her partner about 3 feet away and stands on one foot. Invite players to take turns mirroring the movements of their partner's foot with their own, then switch. Encourage a few ankle twists, knee bends, and hip openers. Now that the joints are sufficiently warmed up, the competition begins. Contenders balance, sometimes gracefully, sometimes tipsy, on one foot. When ready, issue forth a suitably playful signal and invite both partners to feverishly move their floating foot freely and attempt to tag the top of their partner's foot with the bottom of their own. Of course, each person is simultaneously attempting to avoid the tag of their partner's foot also. Once a tag occurs, ask the partners to switch feet, play again, and/or swap partners. Before starting, you may feel it necessary to offer this tidbit of humor. Kicking your partner in the shin and then tagging their foot, although effective, does not constitute fair or safe play. Encourage your group to keep it safe and fun. Ensure adequate space between pairs, as some people may lose their balance and tumble any which way. The process of learning to decide for yourself what's right and wrong and acting accordingly are parts of normal youth development. During the early teen years, youth are increasingly developing independent attitudes and beliefs about spirituality, politics, and morality. We will now watch the video for lesson 18.
Health rocks. Inspired to be substance-free.
Peer pressure. We've all heard about it, but what is it really? Well, peer pressure is what you get when you have a group of people who are roughly equal to you in age, in stature, in standing, or maybe you're all equals on a team. These are your peers, somebody that you are roughly equal to. Peer pressure happens when that group of peers puts pressure on you to act a certain way, to do a certain thing, wear a certain thing, say a certain thing. They want you to conform to the rest of the group. So that's what peer pressure is. Now, most of the time when we think about peer pressure, we think about the negative impact of peer pressure. You hear people referring to peer pressure when it comes to youth trying drugs, alcohol, tobacco products, or engaging in other risky behavior. But peer pressure can be a positive thing. Think about surrounding yourself with people who strive to have good grades, who want to go to college, who want to better themselves in some way. Maybe they're just really hard workers. Maybe they're really smart about certain things, and you want to aspire to be like them. These would be instances of good peer pressure. When you surround yourself with individuals that want to make themselves better, that will make you want to be a better person by being with them. You're going to instinctively want to come up to their standards. So in this way, peer pressure would be a good thing. Let's have an example. Let's say you've got a test coming up and you have a group of friends who are very cautious about their grades. They want to make sure that they get good grades. They have parents that care about those grades. They want to get into a good college. So the night before that big test, they've got a study group and they've invited you to be a part of it. This is good peer pressure. They're wanting to help you improve yourself. They're asking you to come be a part of their group and study. Now you might have another group of friends that are not as concerned about their grades, and the night before the test, they're thinking that it might be a really great time to go out to the river. It's really hot. They want to go out to the river and float the river or play in the water some, instead of studying for the test. And they're pressuring you to come with them. Well, that would be an example of bad peer pressure or of negative peer pressure. So positive peer pressure exists, but in order to get to that level, you need to be mindful of who you're surrounding yourself with. So last lesson we talked about indirect pressure or indirect influences and direct influences, and this brings that back around. So if you want to involve yourself with people that are going to have a positive impact on you and apply that positive peer pressure, You want to make sure that those who have that direct influence on your life, those you keep closest to you, that inner circle of people, are people that do strive to be their best, to do their best. That's the kind of people that you would want to surround yourself with. You would want to be careful and maybe not have quite as many of the people that just want to party or just want to have fun. Not saying that having fun is a bad thing, but there's a time and a place for everything. And if you want to have that positive peer pressure, that positive influence in your life, then those are the kind of people that you need to surround yourself with. Those people that are going to strive to lift you up. They're going to be applying positive pressure to you. They want to see you succeed. They want to see you do your best. So this is something that you need to think about in moving forward and who you have with your life. You're going to be getting pressure from all sides. Pressure is going to come from everywhere. And you want to make sure that those who win, that those who have the most pressure on you, are those that are exerting a positive influence on your life. Those that can help lift you up. Those that are going to buoy your spirits and make you feel like you can accomplish anything. You want to surround yourself with those people that help to improve your self-efficacy. And remember, self-efficacy is that belief that you can accomplish things, that you can succeed. So you want to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are a positive influence on you, who will exert positive peer pressure, and those who will help you build up your self-efficacy and that self-esteem and that belief in yourself. And that's all going to be so important as you go forward. And these influences then will also help you make the right decisions when it comes to the use of drugs, alcohol, tobacco products, or even other risky behaviors. So remember, looking at that inner circle, you want positive people and people that are going to help build you up.
Give each participant a "What do I believe" handout. Explain that this is a list of statements that could make up part of what they value or believe. As youth complete this handout, have youth think about what else they value or believe. As they think of other values and or beliefs, they should write them in the blanks at the bottom of the page. Discuss with youth how they feel about the beliefs that were listed. Which ones did they answer yes and which ones no? Why? Is everyone in the group going to agree? Give each participant a piece of paper and assign them a belief statement from the handout. Have them spend about 5 minutes writing down how to defend their yes or no answer and how the belief statement influences them. Is the influence positive or negative? Have each participant come to the front and read their belief statement. They are to defend the answer and talk about how their belief influences their thinking or actions in a positive or negative way. After all participants have completed their presentations, have the group work together to write belief statements about tobacco, alcohol, or other drugs. Talk about how what they are writing influences them in a positive way. Divide the group into 2 teams of equal numbers. Give each participant a straw. Put the balloon on the table and have 1 team on each side of the table. Explain to participants that the balloon represents them and their value or belief. The straws represent the negative and positive support they get from those who influence them: parents, family, friends, peers, teachers, etc. When you count to 3, have each side blow the balloon with their straw. The sides are equally balanced, so they are not necessarily getting pressured one way or the other. Therefore, they can make their own decisions based on what they believe. Now have the entire group, except 1 youth, go to one side of the table. The lone participant will stand by themselves. On the count of 3, everyone is to blow the balloon with their straws. Here are some reflection questions that you can use for Lesson 18. Why is it important to think about what you believe in? What happened when you were using the straws to blow the balloon? What was the purpose of this activity? How can what you believe influence you? Was it easy or difficult to distinguish what your beliefs were, or if your beliefs were influenced by others? Why? If this were a group of friends wanting you to try vaping or use marijuana, how would it feel? If you consider trying a beer because someone wants you to, Your parents and your friends are the groups with the most straws and are pressuring you. How would it feel? How does the straw activity help you when choosing friends? Are you always a positive influence and a support? Why or why not? The summary for chapter 18. Sometimes we may not realize where our beliefs and values come from. They just seem to have always been there. This would be a good time to take a moment and reflect on who is influencing your values and beliefs. What sort of pressure, positive or negative, do your peers place on you? Is peer pressure always negative? The 4-H activity for this lesson is watercolors. Youth will have a chance to show their creative side by using watercolors to paint backgrounds on positive and encouraging sayings. Final reminders, please be sure to email Ashley when you have completed the training. Also, please be sure to turn in your attendance sheet every week. Thank you.